Good morning. It's 5 to 11 on Sunday. Joe was here yesterday. I picked up lamb from a farm over near Les Errols, which is where they have on a Saturday, the 29th of the month, they have the biggest fair, the biggest market in, I think it might be in the whole of France, but it's definitely in our region, Poitou. No, we're not Poitou-Charentes anymore. Nouvelle Aquitaine. So we went up. The farm we went to is near Les Errols. It's right in the middle of nowhere. I wouldn't want to live that far into the middle of nowhere. I'd like to be a bit further away from this road than we are. Although it doesn't bother me. I'm only aware of it when I start videoing. But the farm we went to was in just miles and miles and miles out up single track roads. Anyway, so we did that. We came back from there, and then so Joe was here yesterday, and I cooked the leg of lamb. Sorry to the vegetarians. I cooked the leg of lamb yesterday, having looked up to make sure the timing, because it was massive. It was 2.5 kilos. And I wanted it to be pink inside. I didn't want a bit to overdo it. And that worked well. That was fine. We had a lovely dinner. I mean, we were sitting chatting in the afternoon, and I'm just watching something now, and it's just making me think about how different we are. Jo watches things about animals. So she watches, I think she said there's a new series of Super Vet on, or just starting, that she watches. Well, that's not something I would watch. I wouldn't watch it. But I'm sitting here watching Saving Lives in Leeds, I think it's called, which was a BBC series. I don't know when it was put out. It was definitely during COVID, because everybody's masked and there's no visitors allowed with their relatives, and all of that was going on. So it was in COVID that this was happening. So she watches animals being operated on, and I watch humans being operated on. She would not be able to cope with watching, what have I been looking at? Open heart surgery, brain surgery, orthopedic surgery. Yesterday I watched a limb transplant, hands and forearms. It was incredible. So I'm just thinking about how different we are. There's no way I'd want to watch animals being operated on, and it doesn't appeal to me to watch. I am interested in watching what I'm watching, but what's getting to me and what's I'm finding, it is making me angry. But it is making me angry, and I could rant and probably could end up ranting. Is that the consultants and surgeons and the medical staff, before they operate, are having to use a lot of energy to see if they've got a bed. Now, when people talk about there being no beds, we haven't got an ITU bed, or we haven't got a ward bed, it isn't a bed that they haven't got. It means they haven't got the staff to staff the bed. And I think that language on all of the programs when they talk about it, or on the news programs when they're talking about it, that language could change. If they changed the language and said, we haven't got the nurses, or we haven't got the staff, that would be more realistic. But what they talk about is, we haven't got a bed, we haven't got an ITU bed, this patient can't have the operation until we know that we've got an ITU bed or high dependency bed to go to. And I'm on episode 7 now, I think it's of 8, and I've watched it all the way through. It just fascinates me. But every single episode, and in fact it seems to be worse on this episode 7. Every single episode you see the consultant having to juggle, put a lot of energy into, make contact with, hang around for an hour waiting to see if they've got a bed. And so what you're getting when you get your consultant in the theatre ready to operate on you is somebody that's not really 100%. 100% on, because they've used some of that to do a task that they shouldn't have to do. You know, and there were days when, years ago, when a surgeon would go and see the patient would come into the anaesthetic room, through to theatre, and they'd get on with it, and there wouldn't be all of this juggling, worrying. One of the consultants that I've just watched, who was doing, I can't remember whether she was doing cardiac now. Is she the cardiac surgeon? Cardiac surgeon. Um, Says that she doesn't really sleep well the night before. And that's not because she's got to perform an operation. She said, it's because I'm worried I'm not going to have a bed. There was somebody yesterday whose surgery needed a massive team of various, I can't think of the word, Kel Surprise, but they needed a massive team of specialities to perform the op for this patient. And if this operation was cancelled because there were no staff to take care of the patient afterwards for the aftercare, this group of specialities will have given up their outpatient clinics, will have given up doing what they would normally be doing on that day to perform this operation, only to find that they weren't able to do it. So you've got a team of, at the moment I'm watching an operation, I think there's 14 in the room, and it's a 9-10 hour operation, so it's a day's worth of surgery. It's disgusting. It's just unbelievable. And what makes me sad is that I worked in the NHS for years. And when I was working in the 80s in the NHS, there were already shortages. We were already understaffed. And this is now 20, 40 plus years on. And I mean, obviously it's deteriorated massively. And what happens is the politicians blame it on the doctors, blame it on the staff, blame it on the nurses, blame it on anybody, blame it on them out there, those people that aren't doing their jobs properly, or aren't performing, or aren't reaching the numbers, or the NHS at some point, can't remember the date, can't remember the whole politics around it, became an organisation that had to show profit. I was like, I'm not going to say any more about that, but once that shifted, I think the hospitals used to have their properties, I think they were called, and I might be wrong, called Crown properties. And so the property, the hospital itself, they weren't paying rent, or they weren't paying that amount of money for the land and the building they were taking up. And that all shifted, and I think it shifted in the 90s, and I can't remember how. And so all of a sudden, NHS, hospitals, trusts had to start finding money to pay rental, or whatever on their hospitals. So it's a load of bollocks, really, isn't it? It's just a mess, and I feel sad to be watching what the consultant I'm just watching, the cardiologist, said that it's not uncommon now that they cancel 50% of their waiting list. That, I mean, it's just dying, and it's I don't know, it's too late to put the plug in. It's too late to turn it around unless the government make a massive big decision. And they're talking, there was something the other day about, we'll make sure that we've got beds for this, and I'm thinking, no, you fucking won't. It's words again. That's all they do, that's all they say. So yes, I'm watching that, and as you can tell, it's making me angry. And I'm not even watching the news. I'm not even watching political stuff. I'm not looking at Nigel fucking Farage and his Coots Bank crap. Not looking at any of that because it makes me angry. And I'm just watching a documentary series, and it's making me angry. There. So that's that. Chickens are out. You would have heard him crowing. I just keep looking at the apples on the apple tree and thinking how lovely they look. Hope they stay that way. Jazz is over there. There's 2 compost bins over there, one without a lid on and one with a lid on, and she's on the one with the lid on. it's nice and warm. And that's that really. Yeah, got the decorators in. They're doing the front. All of the front doors, windows are prepped, ready for the top coat coming tomorrow. And we have got to go out tomorrow about 2:20. We need to be back by 5 because they'll be going home and wanting to leave everything open. We need to manage that well, but other than that, we're fine. Okay, have a good Sunday.